Good morning. As many of you know, I am one of 3 ordained permanent deacons here in Our Lady of Perpetual Help Parish. And most permanent deacons are married, as I am, and my wife and I have 6 children and 12 grandchildren. And I mention that because today, May 12th, is a very special day in our lives. Because 63 years ago today, on May 12th, 1957, Patricia Ann Kildare and James T. Revord were married at St. Margaret Mary's Church in Chicago. Married for 63 years. And our road of marriage has been paved with love, joy, sorrow, and suffering, all tied together by our Catholic faith. That's an important line. All tied together by our Catholic faith. And coincidentally, on that same day, in a small town in rural Wisconsin, another couple was being married and making the same commitments and vows that we were that day on May 11th, 1957. And that couple was Chuck and Janelle Bodiger. Chuck and Janelle were longtime parishioners of Our Lady of Perpetual Help and were very active in our parish. Janelle passed away in 2016 and Chuck passed away in 2018. And I know their road of marriage was also paved with love, joy, sacrifice, and sorrow that I'll detail a couple of minutes after and later in the homily why. But their marriage was all tied together by their Catholic faith again. Chuck and Janelle operated the Dairy Queen over here on Lehigh Avenue in Glenview. Obviously, it's locked down because of the coronavirus, so I know Chuck and Janelle are up there praying because their adult children run it, hoping that it'll be open soon, because this is when they can make the most of their money. But when both of us were married that day in 1957, the priest read to us as a couple what was then known as the marriage exhortation. And the marriage exhortation was read after the Our Father to every couple married pre-Vatican II. This marriage exhortation, unfortunately, was, after the Mass went from Latin to English, was eliminated from the Mass. But it's very beautiful, and I'm going to read you just a short, condensed version of it, the same version that was read to Chuck and Janelle and Jim and Pat Revord 63 years ago. As you know, you have entered into a union which is most sacred and most serious, a union which was established by God Himself. This union then is most serious because it will bind you together in a relationship so close and intimate that it will profoundly influence your whole future. That future, with its hopes and its disappointments, its successes and its failures, its pleasures and its pains, its joys and its sorrows, is hidden from your eyes. And you know that these elements are mingled in everyday life and are to be expected in your own. And so not knowing what is before you, you take each other for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, until death. Truly then, these words are most serious. And because these words involve such solemn obligations, it is most fitting that you rest the security of your wedded life upon the great principle of self-sacrifice. And that's the whole theme of this homily, actually. And so you begin your married life by the voluntary and complete surrender of your individual lives in the interest of that deeper and wider life which you are to have in common. And whatever sacrifices you may hereafter be required to make to preserve the common life, always make them generously. And these next 3 sentences are the key to the whole essay. Sacrifice is usually difficult and irksome. Only love can make it easy, and perfect love can make sacrifice a joy. We are willing to give in proportion as we love. And when love is perfect, the sacrifice is complete. And if true love and the unselfish spirit of perfect sacrifice guide your every action, you can expect the greatest measure of earthly happiness that may be allotted to men and women in this vale of tears. The rest is in the hands of God. nor will God be wanting to your needs. He will pledge you the lifelong support of his graces in this holy sacrament which you just have received. Isn't that a great treatise on marriage? And of course, that one line, the key line, sacrifice is usually difficult and irksome. Only love can make it easy, and perfect love can make sacrifice a joy. Today's gospel, incidentally, mentions love 7 different times. 7 different times. And the key phrase is, whoever loves me will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come down and make our dwelling with him. Paraphrasing that last line for us couples, married couples, and it would be, he will come down and make our dwelling with the newly married couples. That last line certainly applies to Chuck and Janelle, as God certainly dwelled in them. In 2010, Jeanette was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, very serious Alzheimer's, and it was all downhill after that. For 3 years, Chuck was the primary caregiver, and in 2013, Chuck himself came down with cancer. So Chuck moved his wife, Janelle, to Maryhaven, a nursing home here in Glenview. He never left her side at Maryhaven. He was there 24/7. In fact, I thought he was going to take up permanent residence there. And the kicker is, after more than 55 years of marriage, every time Chuck visited Janelle, she had no idea who he was. That's tough to take. But Chuck always exhibited perfect love, like the reading we just read, towards Janelle, and he made visiting with her look like a joy. He was never down. His glass was always half full. We all know people who make sacrifice a joy. Those parents with a Down syndrome child, or those parents who have a child with special need, or those adults who are taking care of their aging parents. That can be difficult, and it takes a true sacrifice to make it a joy. I could go on and on. Whether you are married, young or single, young or older, as you go through these difficult situations and make sacrifices that are very difficult, remember, in closing, sacrifice is usually difficult and irksome. Only love can make it easy, and perfect love can make sacrifice a joy. And to my bride of 63 years, happy anniversary.